For the LOC Report for the 2017 season. It's the Commissioner here again with none other than the co-host Chris Leach. How's it going, co-host Chris Leach?
It's going very well. It's lovely to be live.
It's good to be back.
It is good to be back. I said, I was just saying before the show started, it's our 4th year of doing this, believe it or not. So
4th year.
How have you endured 4 years of us talking to you, well, via the medium of sound previous to this?
Yeah, and now you get to see our 6 out of 10 faces as well.
Well, that's it. Quite. You get to see the Gronk jersey come out, which could change up every week, depending
Probably
on...
will. I have enough of them.
That's it. I feel completely naked now, but I do have a Mariota jersey at home.
Yeah, so. Which I'm sure you will be wearing the next episode.
You bet. You bet. Someone's got to.
Yeah,
Marcus Mariota's got to.
Yeah, he does have to. Did you see the funny thing with him at the Tennessee ice hockey game?
Did
you hear about this?
No.
No, so the whole O-line was there.
Right.
And during the game, they had catfish with them. I think the Tennessee team was called the Catfish or something like that. So they were holding catfish, and then every time the camera panned to them, they had this all written down and prepared. They poured beer down the catfish's throat, spiked them, and then chugged the beer. The entire O-line.
See, this is why the Tennessee Titans may or may not have a questionable season. Consistently.
Yeah, it's fair to say. You can't be drunk.
No.
Mariota was there as well, but he was just kind of chilling on the side, being a quarterback, not actually taking part.
No, he can't. The guy can't hardly stand up. So.
Yeah, he injures himself when he does.
Yes, indeed.
But hey, enough of that. We've got a good show for you today, because today is the AGM Recap show. The AGM happened about a month ago. And it was a good one this year. It usually is every year. I think we were harping on the draft reveal bonanza, which happened also about a month and a half ago now, about how important the AGM was. And even though it didn't feel like there was a lot going into this AGM to discuss, a lot actually came out of it, I think it's fair to say. But that's the main feature. First, as always, we're going to go to the league news.
Always.
No more jingle though, unfortunately, because live now. No, we don't have the setup for that.
Nah, that's it. Not yet.
Maybe soon.
Not yet.
Maybe soon.
Watch this space, people.
So the biggest news, I guess, for fantasy-related people, and that some of the people in the league will be very interested in, mock drafts are now live on the NFL website, and actually have been for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Which is keen, even by our standards.
Well, yeah, it's true, but take it with a pinch of salt, because as we were saying the other day, that the rankings are all over the place. And what you get now in your mock draft probably is not what you're going to get on the day. No. So temper expectations, people. Temper expectations.
Absolutely. Obviously, I should have said as well at the start, we are live, so please comment or message on the Facebook group.
Please do.
With whatever your thoughts and ramblings are, and we will get you involved in the show as well, of course.
That's it. And we can see who's watching and who's commenting at any time. So if you do want to say something that you disagree with, agree with, just want to banter, just want to say something to Phil Merritt, then you can do.
That's often a fan favourite.
Absolutely.
We have 2 people watching according to YouTube, so hello and welcome whoever you 2 are.
That's it. One of them's the YouTube moderator.
Probably, yeah.
Make sure
probably,
we're not like, we haven't got like a black flag with ISIS in the background.
No, that's why I closed the door. Yeah. So our next piece of news is, we'll cover it a bit in the AGM recap, but I want to highlight it here because it's important. The Passport and Division Learning event has now been set as the 2nd of July, people. 2nd of July.
Don't miss it. Sunday. Come on now. Not all go to church at the same time.
No, Sunday, 2nd of July. Please don't double book yourselves. We have strived, as you've seen, to make sure as many people can make it as possible, so please don't double book yourself now. We have a comment. Phil is watching, of course, who else? And he says, boo, lose auction.
Yes, that's what he'll do. It's when you spend 200 credits on a kicker, week 1. Yes.
It's a guarantee. He'll blow all his money on a 5th string receiver who will end up leading the league in
That's it.
yards.
Best trade of the year.
It's going to happen, Phil. You know it. You know it's going to happen. Our next piece of news then is the draft. Just a reminder, which we'll probably be doing every week because it's very important. The draft is on the 2nd of September this year. 2nd of September.
Please don't miss that either. Because you know that it's the 2nd of July for the Passport game, 2nd of September for the draft.
So easy to remember.
All the seconds.
No excuse. No excuse. But don't worry if you can't be there in person. As always, we will be having a dial-in option for those who wish to conference or cannot be there in person.
We can do that.
My final piece of news is a segue onto sort of it's a football-related topic, but not direct defence football. If you want to come and play flag football,
Which
this
you
man
may.
has.
Absolutely.
Ross is going to come along every now and then. Me and Tom do it. Pat and Ollie are going to do it. If you want to come along and play flag football, you let me know, because Southern Thrashers flag football team, they're based up in Andover, Tidworth area. Good bunch of guys, good fun. Did you have fun when you
I
came
had a
to
great
practice?
time. Yeah, it's it.
First time coming to practice?
Absolutely. Caught
Yeah.
a few. It was a good time. Yeah, that's it. I think the games would be pretty fun as well.
Yeah, games are good. So, yeah, if you want to come, let me know and we'll sort that out. We have some more comments here. Phil saying he cannot make the division lining impossible event. We already know that. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. Someone had to go, and since he was the last one to reply to me, that's the law of the land, Phil.
Classic.
I'm sorry.
Classic. Just everyone wants to do the Ben's treasure hunt. Come on now.
Definitely
wouldn't
want that. Definitely want. Phil is also saying he's too busy drying his hair that day.
What hair's that?
I don't know if he means dyeing, because to get that vibrant strawberry blonde, I don't see any other way of,
That's it.
having that colour. Fun fact, I saw that that's the most rarest type of blonde.
Is
hair
it really?
colour. Yeah.
A strawberry
The
blonde.
yes, the rarest type.
Okay.
There's a reason for that, because they've all been massacred.
Yes. You're unique, Phil. You made it, mate. Survivor of the fittest, pal.
Yeah, exactly. You're one of the unlucky few. And finally, Ollie Garland saying he is coming to flag football next Saturday. You are indeed, Ollie. We will look forward to having you. It's going to be an LOC takeover at Southern Thrashers training next Saturday. If you're there,
Maybe.
Ollie can't be there, unfortunately. Ross might come. We'll see. We'll have
Maybe.
We'll have a few.
But 4,
Right.
maybe 5.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But that is the news, so we will get on to the main feature of the show, the AGM Recap.
Yes.
And to top it off, we had a pretty big, meaty section. We thought this would be top-heavy going in, how wrong we were. But going in, we knew we had to do something about the team changing powers, because our old friend, Coach Wells, he was contemplating hanging him up. He had announced his retirement at one point in time, because he wasn't happy with the complexity around that, even though he agreed with the particular decision, which caused his initial frustration of Ross playing Brady over Nick Foles, even though, he started Nick Foles, left him in,
Yeah.
but he was in America, so there was... Anyway, lay of the law, we got it wrong. Me and Tom admit that. We've admitted that countless times. But, he had a point. It's a very complex thing. It's not black and white, however we like to try and make it. We have a lot of rules to make sure we do the right thing, but even then, as it was evidence, we said the rules still didn't rule out a mistake, unfortunately.
No.
So the major sticking point was the team-changing powers of the commissioner, of myself, up until the AGM at least.
Well, let's see.
We'll see how that turned out.
The coup that was. Abstain. Yes, of course.
Yeah, Phil, we know you're going to abstain to everything. You'd abstain to your own execution, like it's...
That's it. That's it. Let's have Phil win the lottery every day of the year. Abstain.
So the team change powers. So basically it was a review. How do we want to have the team change powers going forward? And the result, I think almost unanimously, probably was unanimously, that after games have started, there are no team changing powers. Team changing beforehand with prior notice, someone letting me know, hey, I'm not going to be able to get my computer, or I'm this and here, if I don't change it, please change it. That is perfectly fine. So anything before kickoff, absolutely fine. Anything after kickoff, sorry, you're on your own.
I think that's right. And I think that's the fairest way, because at least there's a hard line there. There's no soft line. It's your responsibility, as it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. So who's in your team. It's your responsibility to move it. If you need to move it the days and weeks beforehand, then please do. So going on holiday, yeah, it's difficult, but the world's full of Wi-Fi now. There's always one time you can just sit down, have a look, do what you need to do, get on with it, change it, and ultimately, it's your team and you'll pick who you want, and I think that's fair enough. So.
We've all been
It's a good change.
We've
We have.
been in this league long enough now. You know that come Tuesday you can already change your team for the rest of the week. You know, like you say, it takes 5 minutes at most. When you get a bit of Wi-Fi, you can do it on your phone, and if not, you can just let me know however way what you want to do, and I'll take care of it for you.
That's right. There's plenty of people in the league that can help you out. If you need someone to change your team, then someone can do it. If you need Nate to change your team, then that's not a problem. Just let them know. And if it's just a case of put someone with a higher ranking or someone who's injured, change them out. Yeah. It's as easy as that. So just communication is the key.
Absolutely. So Phil has been commenting a bit more. He says he is the Jeremy Corbyn of the LOC. Keepers for everyone.
He's a pussy as well.
Let's just be thankful I'm not the Theresa May of the LOC. I think
some might say that you are.
I mean, I'm running more than a minority government. I was voted.
That's true. You
pretty much. I do have authority. I have a mandate to run this league.
Yeah.
We have strong and stable leadership. I should run for Parliament.
Well, there you go. So, what, the LOC party?
Yeah, I'm announcing my candidacy now. I will be running for the next election, which will probably be in about next week.
That's it. Yep.
So
you do better than the Green Party.
Is it the Miles Grundy in Irish?
Yeah, Miles Grundy. Yes, it. Yeah. Why would you vote for him?
Why not? So our next thing then is we had a position review. So as part of changing to a 12-team league, of course, we needed to make sure that the essence of the game remained as it was. We wanted to make sure that changing to 12 teams didn't unbalance the league. It was fair. People could still score points and so on. But as we've looked at it, the past 2 seasons that we've been in the 12-team league, really, if anything, it's just made the league more competitive and closer. So 2 years is a small sample size, of course. We're tweaking things around the league that could or could not have an effect each year. But so far, I haven't seen anything to warrant changing the rosters, and everyone else agrees with me. So it's the kind of thing we'll keep on the back burner, but more competitive, the better.
Absolutely, and I think that's always what you're going to find with a more diluted more diluted league, is the fact that the talent's going to have to be more spread out, and you're going to have to do a little bit more depth research, and you're going to have to find those kind of those hidden gems down the draft board a little bit, because they're not always going to be performing at the top. You've seen in the last few years some guys have been pulled out the last couple of rounds. I picked up Michael Thomas in the last draft in the 14th round, and you think that worked out really well for me at the end of the season, but he was a complete unknown at the beginning. So it just showed. I mean, that's probably one of my better draft picks.
And that to be honest, that was one of the major gripes with people wanting to go to a 12-team league. We'll read out your comments in a minute, Phil. Is that they were afraid that waiver was not thin, I'd say, in a 10-team league. There was usually an option or two, but it wasn't deep. People are conscious that with an extra 2 teams, that's an extra 5, 6 running backs, receivers off the board, extra 1 or 2 quarterbacks, an extra 1 or 2 2 or 4 Titans and quarterbacks. Sorry.
Yeah.
That would really dilute it a bit, and that would cause problems. While I think that's entirely true, it has made the waiver thinner, but does not mean you cannot find guys on there. Every year we still see people pick up guys. I picked up Jordan Howard on waivers this year. Some people picked up guys like Jamison Crowder and Rob Kelly for Phil.
Yes,
everything like so. It just it doesn't matter how thin it is. There are always going to be guys out there. Whether we could go to another tier or a lot of teams.
Well, that's it.
With that kind of level, I don't know.
The status quo will always change across the course of the season. Through injuries or form or whatever, and some guys will just always. Not be valuable at the beginning of the season, but be very valuable at the end. I think Rob Kelly's a really good example of that, because who knew that he would turn up week 5 or 6 and be the #1 guy in Washington. So waivers do play a massive role here, and drafting obviously your core team is pretty. It's pretty important, but at the same time, you doing that research across the course of the season is just as equal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil's had some more comments. He said he voted Greens. Good on you, Phil. If you're going to vote Greens, I guess it should be in Bristol. Other than outside of Brighton,
that's true.
Probably a good place to do it, so fair play. And he also says, although I never vote Miles Grundy, sorry, Miles.
Sorry, Miles. Yeah, that's it. Well, would Miles Grundy vote Phil Merritt? That's the question.
That's the question we all need to ask.
Would he do it?
Would he?
That is
our poll of the day. Tweet in, comment. Would Miles Grundy vote for Phil Merritt? And if you don't know who either of those people are, Google them now. Next thing on the agenda was reserve spot. So the reserve spot, it's a very political thing in a sense, because it's one of those things, kind of like fox hunting, I think, in a way, that people are vehemently on one side or the other about.
Yeah.
Yet in the grand scheme of things, it really does not matter, people.
Well, no.
I don't want foxes to die, but why are we getting so riled up about, the...
No, quite. It's one issue that really doesn't matter. And you're right, because ultimately, how many people across the course of the year really use their reserve spot to what it should be?
I think about half the teams maybe use it once, or maybe at any given time there's maybe 4 teams using it.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's only really good for anyone who's kind of on short-term injury, who's going to come back. I used Adrian Peterson last year, which probably was a complete waste of time because he was out all year. But you never know. You don't want to drop a guy like that, but you don't really take. So having a reserve spot does help you out.
Yeah.
But also when you tactically use it, like you say in a draft, I'm going to take a guy who's you draft him in round 6. Let's say Le'Veon Bell, and he's perennially banned from the game, right? So you take him, put him in your reserve spot. You've got one extra player. Yeah, maybe it gains you an advantage, but it loses your draft pick. It's tactical, isn't it? So
exactly. And like you say, the most useful time it will be is at the start of the season when you have those guys who are suspended on PUP or on IR to return. When the season starts, you're not really, like you say, there's a rare case where you might get a guy that goes down in week 3 or 4 or something, goes on IR to return, which means he would be out for 8 weeks, and then you could activate him off about week 12, 13. But honestly, like you say, any period later than really early in the season, if a guy's going on IR, he's not coming back until the playoffs at best, really.
No, it's it.
Our playoffs at best. It's not really that useful. So I agree, it's a good thing to have in a draft where, you might want to take a guy like Le'Veon Bell, who's usually suspended, or a guy like Doug Martin this year who's suspended, who definitely has some value. And you've obviously got that period of, okay, I've drafted this guy, I'm essentially down another player, slap him on reserve, and you can pick up a wave guy who no one is saying is as valuable as that guy, but in terms of your roster, he helps you over the hump until he comes back.
You're taking a gamble ultimately, and say if that guy pays off and Doug Martin doesn't, then say you nothing venture, nothing gain, and I think that's the value of the space.
And we de-escalated this down from the season previous. We had 2 spots before. We lowered that down to 1 because we're not a keeper league anymore. It doesn't have as much use. However, some people like it as an extra feature of the game. The league, other people have never liked it, but the result was the reserve spot stays, and because it's an issue we seem to discuss every year, there is a ban on it being mentioned in the AGM for the next 5 years.
Absolutely,
it's just the same old argument that we don't need to have.
It's a complete waste of time, so remove it from your brains now, it's staying, just like the Conservative government.
For now. The next was the playoff structure, so being a 12-team league, in a 10-team league, but previously it was 40% of the league would make the playoffs, 4 teams.
Yeah.
Now, 12-team league, still 4, so that's 33%. There is an argument. You might want to extend the playoffs. So in the NFL, you have 12 teams out of the 32 make the playoffs, which, we'll do some quick math, that it's not quite 33%, it's somewhere around 30, let's say, which is about where we are now, but even the league is considering upping the playoff spots as well. So we thought we'd do the same. However, coming with that, the only expansion we could go to, which would be a pretty cool one, would be a 6-team, where the top 2 teams, the first 2 seeded teams, would get a first week bye essentially in week 14. So then the 3 would play 6, 4 would play 5, and then you'd have the second week of the playoffs, and then you'd finally have week 16, the Corona Bowl, as usual. We reviewed it, and it's kind of an issue, isn't it? Because you look at the LOC at the moment now, it's really competitive each year. It has been for the last 2 years since we've been a 12-team league.
Yeah.
And while it's really competitive, and you could say, oh yeah, any of those next 2 teams maybe who would have made the playoffs in a 6-team playoff format would be worthy. There's also the argument you don't want to dilute it so much that, a team maybe just scraped it in at 6, which, if you think about it, is effectively middle of the league.
Yeah.
Then just gets lucky and wins 3 games or whatever and wins it, and takes away a complete body of work from, say, the top 4 teams maybe. Usually, when you're a top 4 team, you have 3 clear people who, they've had a really good season, they should get to the playoffs, and then 1 wild card, which is usually a fist fight.
Yeah,
to the last one, which is pretty cool. So, I don't know, what do you think about
I'm always up for expanding. I mean, obviously, having a 6-team league, yes, it means but you do get rid of half the league, don't forget. So you have the top half of the league, the bottom half of the league scrapping it out. Now, it happens in football. You hear about it in Scottish football. It used to happen. You used to be able to take the two halves of the league, rather, the teams at the top, teams at the bottom, cut them in half. And then they had a second half of the season where they'd scrap it out in league format and whoever did that won the title. Now, it was a bit complicated, but it did mean that the best play each other and the worst don't play the best, as it were. So having the 2 extra teams, to me, made total sense because you might have half the teams in the league playing for the Corona Bowl, but those teams are there for a reason. And to be second in your division, really is pretty good. I mean, especially in the way that we do it now, how competitive it is. To come in the top 2 often is a scrap in itself. So it made sense to me, but it didn't quite go that way. People had stronger thoughts.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is as well. Well, you're right. Getting second in division is no mean feat in itself. You could also have a situation where all 4 teams from a division make the playoffs.
This is true. Yeah.
Which, would be quite interesting.
It's difficult to sustain. I get that. So this time, I think that it probably voted the right way, and especially for the longevity that we do it for. And the quality always rises to the top, and the quality will continue to win. So long may that continue.
Exactly.
Democracy sucks. It does. It does. However, I like democracy. I think it's good.
Well, I mean, you could argue Western democracy sucks. European and everything else has been pretty okay.
Yeah, but it's it. Democracy sucks. But then again,
welcome to the world.
Welcome to the world of Grindy, indeed. But however, what I will say to you is this, Phil. Democracy sucks when you vote. If you abstain all the time, you've got no reason to moan, Chief.
He's got you there. So our next thing then, just revisiting. So we decided the events for the draft and the division landing and passport. Originally, the plan was to have a super LOC day where we just bang it out all in one day, which sounded great to begin with. But then the more I thought about it, that would be a long all day. A treasure hunt, a flag game, and then a draft in any combination is quite taxing.
Yeah.
And that time of year usually isn't good for a couple of the LOC's coaches anyway, due to, I swear, half the league has family members who have birthdays around that time of year.
Do they?
Immediate family members.
That's I don't, funnily enough.
I don't either, but there's definitely a few that do, and it's always a bad year, so we have to be pretty careful with it. So, unfortunately, we had to scrap that idea. Draft remains on that day. It will probably be a morning draft. Everyone loves a morning draft.
Don't mind that.
And then that's on the 2nd of September, as we said, and then division lining and passport, which will be on the 2nd of July. Now, those 2 events are going to be pretty fun this year. One, the passport game, because I currently have all the kit for the Silent Thrashers, so that should remain.
We're going to look pro this year.
Actually, or will I? I may, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully I will, yeah.
You put it out there now.
Yeah,
so
I should have it.
You're live.
Yes. I know. I should have it, don't worry. Morning beers at the draft from Phil. Right you are, Phil. Right you are.
That's it.
And the other thing, the division lining event, which is always a fun one, is going to be a very curious one.
I would say. I don't know if he's one of the 5 that are watching now, but Sir Benedict of Sherwood,
I'll let you tell.
In his ivory tower in London, has decided that he wants to treasure hunt it out around here. Quite how much this is being planned, I don't know, but I should be able to find out for you in about 2 weeks' time. So yes, more on that to come. I'll find you an update from.
And it will be in the LOC news on a podcast.
That's right. The next week it'll be on there, I promise you. So we'll catch up with some updates as to what the plan is, But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he's got up his sleeve. Yeah, and then we'll enjoy recapping it as well on the podcast after. Yes. After the fact. So next item of billing was the elections. The elections. Which ones? So the LOC elections. Oh, the LOC elections. The most important ones. The most important ones. So we start off with the commissioner election, as we always do. I was running again for which would be my 9th consecutive term.
and I actually had an opponent that wasn't proxy nominated this year.
That's good. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
At least he knew
you
what he
weren't
was doing.
staging an unknowing coup against me this time.
No, I was being put in front of. I was a front for an actual, leader. That's the problem.
But no, I did have a running opponent, and it was none other than our wannabe communist on the box.
Ah, yes.
Phil Merritt decided to run against me with that somewhat interesting campaign speech.
Yeah, well, I would say so. I wouldn't say it was more of a speech. It was more of a rallying call. It's it.
To rile up the right wing of the LOC.
Well, it's it.
Who he has now seemed to transition to the left.
That's it. Honestly, this guy swings around more than well. You guess what? So,
yeah, and for a while in the voting, it was actually a contested battle. At the start, if you'll recall, it was going 50-50,
well,
and then sense prevailed.
Well, that's good. I think it's probably like the general election. We had lots of protest votes, but ultimately, sense did prevail.
And I wound up representing you as the commissioner for yet another year. Long may I hopefully lead the league to my full capacity.
Well, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no leadership challenge here.
Good, I'm glad. We also had the locker election, which last year we didn't have anyone run for. I appointed Tom. Under my commissioner powers, I appointed him the locker. This year he wanted to run, he was unopposed, and I'm pretty sure it was voted unanimously, apart from an abstain from we know who.
Ah, yes.
And he's a good locker. What do you think?
I think so. I think he's what the league needs, and he wants to do the job, and that's fine. And his article is very interesting when they exist.
And he's going to try and get them out a bit more frequently.
That's it. So I enjoy a read, and it's they're always very flamboyantly written. So
yeah, very good.
That continue.
Yeah. Finally, we had our League Ombudsman election as well. The League Ombudsman, which kind of represents the 10 teams in their own right. Previously, I think Ben ran for the position last season, and he put up a few gifts as part of that and chipped into a few of the league competition, the competition committee's dealings, which is where we discuss stuff and how we're going to approach things in closed doors.
Yeah.
He served us well, but he didn't fancy running again. So Vith Nathwani decided to run, and really off the bat, he made an impact in the competition committee chat on one of the AGM terms, which we'll get to in a bit. Again, he was running unopposed, and he won unanimously. What do you think of Viv as the league ombudsman?
That's it. I think he's been in the league long enough now to know what's right and what's wrong. I think that he's a pretty level-headed guy, pretty chilled out kind of guy. I think he would admit that himself. So
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good choice. And say anyone who puts themselves forward is always a good choice for me because they want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the elections out of the way, and then we got to the open floor section, which usually has one or two interesting things come out of it. And boy, did it this year, because it was something that I wasn't sure to put on the agenda or not. I left it off going in because being a 12-team league for the second or third season, whatever, I just wanted to let the dust settle a little bit longer before we went about changing. But it was raised. We had a discussion. So that point was the waiver system. Now, up till now, the waiver system was obviously at the end of each week, the standing, depending on the standings, dictate your waiver orders. So whoever is in last place in the standings has the first waiver claim, and vice versa. If you're first place in the standings, you have the last waiver. This way, it theoretically helps the worst teams get better by getting waiver plays, and it pins back the best teams a bit to allow some other guys to compete. However, the issues that you can have with it is if a team is behind by multiple wins, let's say they start the season 1-3, they're getting many weeks of benefit of adding the top players on waiver. Meanwhile, and that can springboard them for the rest of the season, which we have seen before.
Yes, we have.
And then you have the best teams, which are on the inverse of that, where if you're going 4-0, if you suffer an injury or whatever, you're just so far ahead for a period of time that you can't get anyone to help you out. And by the time everyone else has caught you up, your roster might be in a completely different state to how it was when you're a 4-0, and there's nothing you can do. You just kind of run out of steam, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, while it's equitable in some ways, you could also argue it's too equitable in some cases, and swings the balance of power too much. So, based on that, we had a discussion and we decided we wanted to change that. The other two options we could have were the waivers never reset. So basically, when you make a claim, you go to the back of the order, and then you move up by people claiming and then moving to the back themselves. Or you could have a waiver acquisition budget, which means you get a budget for the season, and then everyone kind of silent bids on the players they want on waivers. You can place a 0 bid if you don't have any money or don't want to spend any money, and then whoever has the highest bid gets the player, pays the money, and then you can see all the breakdown of that on the transaction bit. So those were our three options. Stairs we were waivers never reset until you claim a guy, and the waiver acquisition budget. What were your thoughts on the current system and then the two possible systems we could have gone to?
Well, it's funny because I didn't really think of that as deeply as that until now, actually. Now you've said it, because I quite like the idea of the waiver acquisition budget anyway, just because it makes it more fun. But you're right, now you say it, we have seen people springboard in the past by having poor starts to the season, and then be able to just rack up decent guys each week as the season progresses. As we said earlier on, these guys may or may not become prevalent until week 4 and 5, and that's the kind of time where you want to be doing that. So, I think that's a really good way of bypassing that, while at the same time making it more fun, and that's why I voted for it. And I think that I think you really do have to have a little bit of control now. We've done this for a long time, and when you see week in week out, waiver picks, 3 come in, 3 get dropped, 3 come in from the same team each week, that's going to come to an end. You have to think about it a little bit more, be a bit more thoughtful and in depth about what you're doing. And you've got to pick your guys right, because if you get it very wrong, you go big on one guy, and then you get that wrong. Well, tough luck,
It's definitely a risk, absolutely, and you're right. You hit it nail on the head. I think the most important thing is, so you're all on equal footing. You've all got the budget, which to some people might say, hey, if I'm a worse team, this doesn't allow me to get back in the game, so to speak, right now. But I think how you'll see it work out is the best teams obviously aren't going to need to, they're not going to shell out money for high-priced waiver guys at the start, because they don't need to. They're not going to take the risk. If he gets injured, then they just waste a whole load of money for no reason. Whereas the bottom guys, they're going to need those guys early on, so they're going to be, putting out some dosh to get the guys. But then as you go through the season, while those teams will have spent more of their cash, the best teams will have more cash left, in theory. And that's when they can, get a second wind almost, when they might be struggling, lose a few guys, instead of up till now where they just can't get access to the top guys in the waiver. They'll have the money at the end of the season that they've been saving to enable them to bring guys in if they need to, and then give them second wind and help them push onwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think in that sense it's still fair. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, Viv had his impact straight away in the league chat, mentioning about how we have control over how we set the budget. You can set it any number you want, because the values are all going to be relative. But the default was $100, and we felt that's a pretty good number to start off with, because $100, if you think about it, it's not a high amount. If there's a really clear running back or receiver on the waivers who's going to be really valuable, people might be willing to drop $40, maybe even $50 on the guy. Where it kind of balances out as well, if there's a tie, the team that is in the lower down in the standings has the tiebreaker, essentially. Keeping the budget low makes that not likely, but more likely to happen, where it can level it a bit better, if you get what I'm saying.
That's right, absolutely. It's easy to work out, the percentage of what you're spending as well, because ultimately, that's what it is. If you spend a quarter of your budget on a player, then it's easy, $25 it.
Yeah.
So even for people who can't do maths very well like me, then it works out. So.
And we're going to have fun reviewing every week as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be the most interesting thing for us, I think.
Absolutely.
On the podcast.
We're going to have to make a new section, like, you know.
It's going to be, well, we already do the waivers in the...
Best and worst auction picks of the year, so you wait
that's
for that.
Gonna be a fun, that's going to be a fun episode. Moving on then, we had that, so... And as part of adding that, we're obviously going to add a review of that in 2018 to see if we still like it in the 2018 AGM, just to make sure it's going okay. Maybe raise the budget, maybe whatever.
I think we will. I have high hopes for this.
Yeah,
so
I think it could be a really good feature. Adds another layer to the game. And next year we also have reviewing the draft method for the 2018 season, because 2018 will be the 10th season of the LOC, the anniversary season of the LOC.
We're into
double digits.
Yeah, this is madness.
And for that, Ollie Bidette, who also brought up the waiver stuff, also had the idea that we could do an auction draft for 2018. Now, if you've never done an auction draft before, if you've done a mock draft, or even if you've done a live draft using NFL's pre-built-in system, it takes, I don't know, maybe half an hour to an hour, depending how long the guys are taking in the draft. Now, for an auction draft, I have done an auction draft using the League built-in tool before. It literally took hours. Do
you want that, people? Do you really want
I am not disputing that it would not be fun. It would be very fun, but I think we would probably have to use the League tool, because if we wouldn't, it would just take forever. We could absolutely still go to the conference room and all do it together. Don't see any trying to administer our own auction draft, not to mention it would be incredibly difficult, but it would be incredibly time consuming.
Yes, that's it, quite. I think, you know, yes, it's good to change it up. Why break something that ain't, why fix something that ain't broken, rather? Why break something that ain't fixed?
Well, it's just it would just be the one season. We wouldn't do it again. It would be the one season you do an auction draft.
Yeah, you put it to vote. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all democratic here.
Yeah, and the final thing, which I did neglect to mention on the AGM, but I'll mention now, subs for the season. All important subs.
How much is it worth?
The previous few years, there have been inflation busting prices. I've maintained it at £2. However, this year we have a number of other factors to incorporate. We have inflation. We have had Brexit, currency-related influences, which have pushed up prices.
That's true.
And because of that, I regret to inform you that I'm going to have to keep it at £2 because...
Whoa! Wow!
Because...
Wow!
You know,
big news.
I'm a very financially driven commissioner.
Yeah.
I work as a commercial analyst, as we all know, and I've done everything in my power to keep it at £2, and I've been successful.
£2.
We will not see any increase in subs this year.
There we go. So is it? So a 20.
While your fuel may be increasing, while your food may be increasing, your fantasy football membership will not.
£24 overall in the league for the year. Is it worth £2? Of course, it's worth £2.
Of course,
it's worth more than £2. He doesn't want to give it. If it were down to me, I'd ask you to pay more. But
I'm not skimming anything off the top.
But this guy,
I run it as a not-for-profit, like the
it.
NFL technically, even though they make billions. We've had another comment on the Gardner.
This is quite a fun way of doing it.
So this is the drill. Put all NFL players in a hat and then just pick one out and pass it around.
That's what Phil does in every draft.
That would be deadly. Yeah, that's what Phil does. We've also had another comment. I would have reduced it to £1. Phil, you would have also created an insurmountable amount of debt for the league had you have done that.
There
so,
you go.
You know.
There you go, everybody. That's it. You've just seen how socialism works on a very, very small scale.
Crooked Nate as well. He was the one that was just saying about skimming some off the top.
I'd make a profit for all my time I put into it. This guy doesn't. He does it because he loves it.
Yeah, I actually make a slight loss probably. Slight, but I can't be asked to charge £2.50. So.
Why are we buying 50p's? That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I'll go with them £5 notes that you can't spend now. Get them in now.
But that is the AGM recap. That was all the ongoings of the AGM. As we said, pretty important one. Will probably be in the eyes of the history books. For next week's episode, we'll do one next week because the week after I will be in Finland
Very nice.
So it would be difficult to do one then.
Challenging, I would say.
Challenging is the word. I haven't got the plan for the season yet, but I between now and next week I will form a plan for the podcast throughout the off season, and at some point I will do the off season series as well. I need to get that going.
We're going to get that going again. That's absolutely.
And it will be the bracketology for the third year in a row, but this time it will be the worst draft pick in the history of the LOC.
We went through this very, very briefly last year on one podcast, and we did have a great time just laughing over some of these awful. But this was just from 1 year as well, so imagine like all time.
And we're going to have that podcast again, but for the last season, 2016 draft, because it was a good show, so that will be on the schedule at some point.
Of course, if you want to be part of the show, then you can.
Yeah.
If you want to be here and actually like present it with us, then that's absolutely fine, provided we know you. Otherwise, it'd be
even if we don't know you and you're one of our adoring fans,
then you are more than welcome. If not, obviously get in touch with us all the time. We're obviously around LOC on Twitter, on Facebook.
At LOC Fancy. You can obviously got us on YouTube. Email us locfilms@gmail.com.
That's it. So we're everywhere. Other than that, there's a few fan favourites coming up over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go. We normally do our draft pick later on in August.
We do a mock draft. Yeah, we do a mock draft show. Yeah.
We do
season reviews. We have a last season review as well as the draft review of last season.
So, and those are all fun. So, yeah, if you want to be part of that, they're always good to be part of. Especially the mock draft one. I remember one year we had like a proper mock draft going on. Five of us, and that was quite fun.
Yeah.
So,
it's a logistical challenge, but we'll see if we can pull it off.
If you can be here, then
we've done it
before.
here.
So yeah, that's probably about it from us today.
Yeah, that's all we've got today. We've got a couple more comments. Phil, who's been very active on the comment board today, we appreciate that, Phil. He says, "Oh God, I feel like I'm going to win that bracket," in reference to the worst draft pick of all time.
Well,
Phil, you're probably going to have a quarter of the bracket off the bat. I'm not going to lie.
Maybe we should do a whole show which is Phil's worst draft picks. We probably could fill an hour doing that.
I reckon we could.
I mean, I'll
put it on the schedule.
Or half for Phil and half for me, because I'm up there too. I can do that.
I've had my fair share of clangers as well.
We're going to find out. That's what we're going to do. That is for sure.
Yep, as Chris said, that about wraps up for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for commenting. Chris, take us out.
That's it. It's been lovely being live, people, but we really do have to go back to our lives now, after you. So until next week, we'll be seeing you. Take care.
Take care. See you later. Good, happy mock drafting too.